Last week, the President of the United States delivered a primetime address from the White House. These sorts of addresses are usually reserved for national crises or the making of a major milestone. So what was the occasion last week for President Trump to make such an address? To air 6-year-old grievances and lies about the outcome of the 2020 presidential election. You see, despite the fact that Donald Trump lost to Joe Biden in 2020 by 7 million votes, President Trump refuses to acknowledge the truth. And he continues to complain, which is the reason for his statement last week. In a 25-minute rant, the president alleged sweeping foreign interference in voting and railed against the so-called deep state. He was actually railing against his own administration. You see, the 2020 election was during his term, his first term as president. He was in charge. He appointed the people who were supposed to enforce the law. The press conference and announcement last week ignored that fact. These claims would be laughable if they weren't so dangerous. First, the president was famous for not reading or requesting shorter and shorter versions of a brief provided by our intelligence community each day. He alleges the deep state misrepresented what actually happened to hide the information from him. Second, his then Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, whom President Trump now has leading the Central Intelligence Agency, made public remarks addressing all of the concerns in 2020. It's hard to hide information you publicly discuss in press conferences. President Trump claimed the Department of Homeland Security has identified 278,000 non-citizens registered to vote in federal elections. Think of that. The President of the United States claimed that his agency of government has the names of 278,000 non-citizens registered to vote in federal elections. Well, I sure want to see that evidence. I'm sure the American people do too. The president can't produce it. It doesn't exist. None. Not one page of documents backing up claims that he made in this public statement. No evidence. Election experts and state officials have called out this claim wildly speculative. Here are the actual facts. You know the Save America Act, which the president is fixed on, can't think of anything else? The idea behind it is to make sure that non-citizens don't vote in the United States. Would you guess that it's currently against the law in the United States for non-citizens to vote? It's true. Well, let's take a look. We took a look at the Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative group, and asked them to provide information on how many non-citizens have been caught trying to vote in the United States. Well, we took a look. Between 1993 and 2023, that would be 30 years, 1993 to 2023, millions and millions of votes were cast. How many non-citizens have we identified trying to vote in those elections? Well, if we're going to change the laws of the United States, there must be a lot of them. Turned out there were 77. Out of the millions of people who registered and voted, 77 were actually not citizens of the United States. The president wants to change the law. And how does he want to change the law? Well, if you want to register to vote under the president's approach, you have to prove you're a citizen of the United States. How can you do that? Oh, I'll show my driver's license. I'm sorry, that's not enough under this law. Under this law, you would have to show your passport. Got one in your back pocket? Half of Americans don't own a passport. And if you want to get a passport so you can vote in the next election in about 100 days, what does it take? Well, you go to the passport agency and you plop down $165. That's what it costs for a basic passport in this country. And then you hope that it arrives in time. If you want to speed it up and get an accelerated process, it's $225. So in order to exercise your right to vote under the Save America law of the president, he wants you to pay a poll tax, a passport fee of up to $225 to vote. Anything wrong with that? It's just against most of the laws that we've promulgated over the years, saying that poll taxes on people to vote are fundamentally unfair. Oh, you can bring your birth certificate. I was thinking about that when I was home over the weekend. I asked my wife, where's my birth certificate? And she said, we think it's in a box in the closet. We haven't seen it in a long time. Well, according to the President's Save America bill, you're going to have to produce one. And incidentally, if you're a woman with a maiden name on the birth certificate, you have to have an additional documentation. All of this to stop this scourge of non-citizens who voting. There were 77 of them over a 30-year period of time. 77 in a nation of millions of people. But the president can't get it out of his head that somehow or another the foreigners are taking over our election. He lost one, and he just can't live with it. So why would the president host that primetime address, attempting to resurrect these debunked claims? I'll tell you, it's exactly why he did it months preceding the 2020 election that he sought to steal. He's trying to lay the groundwork to justify rigging the results of the next election. That's the real political theater. President Trump and his Republican Party are struggling in the polls. They know their mega agenda is making life more expensive, communities less safe, and government more corrupt. And guess what? We're now, again, sadly, in a never-ending war. So now they're focused on reviving thoroughly debunked conspiracy theories to determine future elections before a single vote is cast. As we heard in the president's address, he will use these bogus claims to push for passage of this anti-democratic, anti-voting Save America Act. It's already illegal for non-citizens to vote in the United States. They face prosecution and jail time for doing it. The Save America Act attempts to solve a problem that does not exist. The bill would impose expensive administrative roadblocks, making it more difficult for people to vote. Is that what America is all about? Difficulties and hurdles for exercising our right to vote? I don't believe it will. We need to stop this effort immediately. We need to give the American people the last word in the election in November, not the president and his bizarre theories on who won in 2020. Mr. President, I yield the floor.